Hey, it's Isaac and Daniel, and today we're going to be comparing three different shotgun mics, using them on the FX6 to see how they compare. We're using the VideoMicro, the Rode VideoMic NTG, and then the Rode NTG5.
So I was interested to find out what would be better in this situation where we're standing in front of a camera, we've got some background noise happening. Often I'm running gun. I try and lapel people up as much as I can. However, in certain situations, the onboard camera mic, which for me is a VideoMic NTG, is often all I've got. I was interested to know whether or not the NTG5 would do a better job.
So we're going to test out these shotgun microphones in three different situations. Our first test will be Daniel outdoors. We'll do a second test indoors to see how the microphones work in a really echoey environment. And then we'll do a third test, which is the best case scenario, which is shooting in a sound deadened studio environment, using the microphones off camera in a boom position.
All right, we're down here at the local soccer field. We've got a game going on, so there's some background noise happening. We've got the VideoMic NTG, the NTG5, and the VideoMicro currently recording into the FX6. Let's see how much it can pick up behind the mic.
Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test.
The NTG5 and the VideoMicro on the FX6.
Today we're doing a second test with a female voice, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our dog Jess, who is a Blue Heeler Cross Border Collie. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our dog Jess, who is a Blue Heeler Cross Border Collie. She is 10.5 years old and still loves to go out twice a day. A Blue Heeler Cross Border Collie. She is 10.5 years old and still loves to go out twice a day. Super high energy, but also full of love.
Okay, now we've made our way to Isaac's kitchen in the background. This is a really echoey room, so obviously it's going to really showcase how this mic pickup is in this sort of environment. So obviously we've got the NTG5. This is the NTG5. Now we've got the VideoMic NTG, the VideoMic NTG, and then finally the VideoMicro. VideoMicro. Obviously an echoey room for all these three microphones to test out.
Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. Now we're going to do a studio test. So the main difference here is that all the mics are mounted just away from my face a little bit rather than mounted to the camera. So we should get much better performance because they're much closer to the source of audio. So here we're going to compare the Rode NT1, which isn't a shotgun microphone, but I just wanted to see how it would compare to these other microphones. We've then got the Rode NTG5, which is my favorite microphone because it uses XLR, so I don't need to power it. And I always use that on my FX6. We've then got the Rode VideoMic NTG, which is Daniel's favorite microphone. And then we've got the VideoMicro, which is the bang for buck champ. What I love about this microphone is that it's so small and light, and because it's not battery powered, you don't need to charge it. I thought we'd treat this conclusion in vlog format just so we could get one more test comparing the VideoMicro to the VideoMic NTG, this time on the FX3 in a different environment. So firstly, as a comparison, here's what it sounds like with the internal audio on the FX3, which is obviously not great, and any microphone would be a huge upgrade. And before we compare the individual microphones, there's three important factors that impact audio quality a lot more than what microphone you're using. The first is wind noise. So if you're shooting outdoors, you really want to get some wind protection, whether it's a foamy cover or a dead cat or something else to really kill the wind noise, because it's hard to remove in post and you'll never get it sounding as good as it can as if you just use wind protection in the first place. The second is reverb. So if you're shooting indoors, you'll often find that the voice or other sounds echo off the walls and the floor, especially if it's a tiled environment. So I try as hard as I can to soften up those things. Throw a rug on the floor, some towels on a bench that's out of the frame or something like that, and it really greatly improves the audio quality. Now you can fix this in post more than you can fix wind noise, but it'll never sound as good as if you just capture the audio properly in the first place. And the third is the distance of the subject to the microphone. So if you've got the microphone really far away from somebody, it doesn't matter how good of a microphone it is, the audio is never going to sound great. And a crappy microphone at a much closer distance to the subject will always sound much better. Now these three factors make much more of a difference to your audio quality than the individual differences between each of the microphones we're comparing today. With that out of the way, I'll give you my personal opinions on these three microphones. So firstly, there's the VideoMicro. Now I think this is an amazing microphone because it's so small and so cheap and still delivers amazing audio quality. I'd recommend using this if you're vlogging in a setup like this because you get amazing audio quality and it's so compact that it doesn't really add any bulk to the camera, as well as the fact that you don't need to charge it separately. This is also a great microphone for a B or C camera. So before I had a full timecode set up, when I was shooting 3-camera videos, I'd find if I didn't put a microphone on my C camera, that often I'd have trouble syncing based on waveforms in post, because the audio to the A cam would be so clear with lapels or shotguns, but the C cam would just have the echoey sound of the room, and so it'd be hard to automatically sync in post, and I'd end up having to align the clips manually. Next up is the VideoMic NTG. So compared to the Micro, it definitely steps up the audio quality a notch and sounds much nicer. It's also got some other benefits, including the USB-C port, which you can plug directly into your computer and use it as a microphone. So I've used that both on some Zoom calls and when I'm wanting to do some voiceovers in DaVinci and didn't want to pull out the full microphone setup, I just plugged that in and it sounded great. The downside of this microphone is that you do need to charge it. Now, it doesn't take long to charge and lasts a very long time, so I find I'm not charging it often, but it is something that I feel like I have to be aware of sometimes, and it's definitely part of the ritual of charging everything up before a shoot. It's one more thing I have to worry about. There are some benefits of this being a powered microphone. Firstly, you can adjust the gain on the back of the microphone, so if you're in a really quiet or a really loud environment, you can adjust those without having to dig in your camera settings. It's much easier using the knob on the back of the camera than it is diving into the menu settings on the FX3. The other advantage is you don't need plug-in power. So if you're using something like a Rode VXLR adapter or certain audio splitters that join two signals into one, a lot of those devices don't pass plug-in power through, which means you need to use a powered microphone, so a VideoMicro wouldn't work in that instance. Now, most devices do support plug-in power, but I've personally got two that don't, and so for those two, I have to use the VideoMic NTG and not the VideoMicro. Finally, there's the NTG5. Now this is a bigger microphone, but I never noticed the increased size because when it's mounted to my FX6, that's a bigger camera and it fits right in. Now the audio quality in this microphone definitely sounded the best of the three. It had a much richer low end and just all of the sound sounded nicer and like you needed less EQing in post to get a great sound. Another thing I love about this mic is all the accessories you get included in the box when you buy it. Rode's chucked in pretty much everything you need except an XLR cable. And if you are looking for an XLR cable, I'd suggest getting one of the slimline ones, like the ones from Cable Technics, as it just makes the FX6 feel so much smoother and nicer than when you've got a normal full-size XLR cable attached. In conclusion, each of these microphones is great, but it definitely seems like a case of diminishing returns. So as you move up the stack and you're paying more, it seems like you're roughly paying twice as much for the next level up microphone. But in my opinion, it only sounds about 25% better. So if that 25% is worth it to you, then you'll definitely get value from the microphone, but it's not a case of paying twice as much and getting twice the audio quality. So I'd suggest picking whatever microphone suits your needs and budget, and don't worry too much about what you're missing out on from the more expensive microphones. It's also much more important to focus on killing all the wind noise or the echoes in your environment and getting that microphone as close as possible, as those always make more of a difference than the comparisons between each of these individual microphones. Thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions or feedback, leave that below. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next video.